What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mind Something. If you're new here, my name is Jake, and in today's episode, I have a special guest joining me, Mr. Iotapi, or Matt, from Viper.net, and we're going to dive into some of the recent events in the crypto mining industry. Now, this is going to be more of a podcast style, and I am considering doing a face reveal to make this type of content a bit more visually appealing. Until then, I'm going to have a little fun with it, so remember, once we hit 7,000 subs, face reveal, and you'll get to see the real, unfiltered version of me. But for now, just sit back, relax, enjoy this episode, and remember, apes together strong. A lot of topics to cover. First thing I wanted to get into with you was a conversation about the Verus pool. There was a recent interview with Son of a Tech and Mike Tatongi. And one thing that Mike Tatongi said in that interview, that it was very easy to run a node. And I know from some conversations with you and several other people that it's not quite as easy as he makes it sound. So you've been pretty vocal about the situation. I wanted to get your take on this, on basically your thoughts on how they're running things, where they have kind of dropped the ball, and maybe some recommendations that could help to make things a little bit easier.
Jake, yeah, man. So, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. As and I'm talking to you from the pool right now on a lovely day here, uh, and I have to tell you, I really had a lot of promise, and I really felt really good about Verus. I enjoyed the community. I really thought it was a great untapped potential. And, I went to my partner at Viper, Miles, and I said, hey, man, check out this coin. It's really, really interesting. Look at all the stuff they're doing. We got merge mining coming up. And he looked at the trade volume. He looked at how long they've been around. He's like, yeah, it's an untapped gem. And, we went and we talked with Cedric, who had done an implementation for Verus. And, we did some porting, we did some work with it. And we got in. We jumped in both feet because we really felt like this was a diamond in the rough. And what we found was disappointing. And by the way, we still are running Verus on our pool. We are the number 2 hash rate on MinerStat with this pool, and we keep it for our miners. We don't make a lot of money on it. That's absolutely fine. That's not why we're here. But we keep it around for the miners that have trusted us. We don't support the merge mining fork that they've done. And most recently, 2 days before Father's Day, they said you have 2 days to do this node update. And it's like, oh my God, like we gotta get on this. And we did, and immediately we knew there was a problem because we were getting orphans. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? We upgraded the entire network and we just kept an eye on it. And anytime there was an orphan, we double checked, we triple checked. Like, is this an actual orphan? We would manually go for every single orphan and be like, is this on chain or not? And then 4 days later, another update came. And by the way, Miles, the partner at Viper, is a part of the Verus Discord. I got kicked out. And so the only thing I monitor is the GitHub repo. And I look at that every single day. And I saw that they had a new node came out that said, oh, there's a distinct possibility you'll get some orphan. As soon as I saw that release come out, I went out and I upgraded the entire network. And it actually took us offline for a while because the wallet got corrupted. And, it actually took us offline for Verus. Mining continued, but payouts were stopped for probably 10 hours because our Verus payment node had actually gone off onto a fork. So we constantly have problems with the Verus node, but we support it because like we understand that our miners have devoted their hash rate, their electricity towards us, and we're not going to let them down.
So what is it about running the node that's giving you guys so many problems?
Okay, so I don't know how many nodes you've personally run, but uh, you may know that if you're going to run a node, it's going to require some amount of memory.
Mm-hmm.
Verus uses and loads the entire blockchain into RAM. So that's 8 gigabytes of RAM every time you run a node. And it takes 27 minutes to reboot the node. And I can't have my miners offline for that amount of time. So I run duplicates and load them behind a load balancer for my miners. So on all my stratums, I'm having to eat up 16 gigabytes of RAM. Think about that. I've got 20 stratums. I'm using 16 gigabytes of RAM
Wow.
to just run this one coin that frankly makes me $3 a day.
So for the viewers that are, trying to follow along here, what type of RAM does a typical node require, and what kind of differences do you see?
So Alephium, which is our second biggest, uses 2 gigabytes of RAM. A typical node, like let's say Radiant, maybe 800 megabytes.
Okay.
Literally, we had to size up all of our stratums just for Verus. If you're a mining pool and you want to support Verus, you're you're using 8 gigs of RAM to run that. And most recently, they came out with a compression technique to reduce the amount of RAM. You're like, oh, great, that sounds wonderful. It takes over an hour and a half to load, to reboot that node if you have that enabled. There's no way. There's no way, Jake, that a mining pool can do that. Like, I have everything load balanced, but even then, if I screw something up and I have to restart it again, I'm losing an hour and a half per restart. It's insanity.
Wow, that is pretty wild, man. So what do you think happens in the future for them as far as the nodes are concerned? Are they, like you said, they've just come out with some type of compression here, but is it something that they're actively focused on and trying to remedy? It seems like, the reason that you're not in the Discord right now is because you expressed the frustration and it was just kind of brushed off.
Well, the admin of their Discord is also a pool operator, and by definition, that's competition.
Ah,
So let's be clear. And this was brought to Mike's attention, and I frankly believe that he was put off that he had to deal with personality issues. That's fine. That's his right. That's his choice. If I really had any power or control over Verus, the number one thing I would do is I'd bring the memory requirements down. Number one thing.
I don't have a large bag of Verus. I did some content for phone mining, and I think that there's some really cool stuff about Verus. I hope that they do well in the future, and for the sake of everybody involved, I'd like to see, maybe a bit more segregation between somebody who's uh, handling the Discord and running the nodes, right?
I think Verus has an amazing um, viewpoint into the future. I think the tech that they're pursuing is the right answer. I think that they test in production. I think they need to have a better policy of we're going to test this in testnet, and we're not going to release it to our pools and our miners until we're sure. Because it's not like it's a new node. It's not Zealous, right? We're not shooting from the hip. There, this this coin's been out for several years, several cycles, as a matter of fact, and there's no excuse for it, right? Like, Mike is an established high-level programmer from Microsoft. He knows how it works. And I believe in his view. Like, there's a reason we invested our time into this coin. We believe in his vision. But the implementation needs some work. And frankly, they need to like take some criticism and be like, you know what, you're right. Help us get there. And like, we're more than happy to help them get there. Like, we want Verus to succeed. We want the miners to succeed because there's no one else doing merge mining. I think it's a great idea. It's what brought us to it to begin with. But when you come out with no documentation and you say it's a bespoke implementation and you have to figure it out yourself, that's not how that works, right? Like, that's not the way to make your coin a success.
Well, I have faith. I hope that hope everything works out for Verus. I agree. I think that they've got great vision. I'm really intrigued by merged mining. I think that that is the way of the future, um, and hopefully, you know, they really take into consideration some of the things that you've mentioned now, and perhaps the viewers that are listening now that are huge fans of Verus can perhaps kind of bring some of that to their attention, or maybe have some recommendations to address it in the future. But there's a couple other things that I wanted to get into. Also, some coins that you guys have on the poll. One of those being Zealous, and we've got a hard fork coming up here pretty soon and an algo change. So, I wanted to get your take on what you expect out of Zealous, what you like about Zealous, and just your general thoughts over it.
So as soon as I heard about Zealous, I did my due diligence, I did my research, and the first thing I did was I went to my partner at Viper, Miles, and I said, Miles, I need you to take a look at this coin because this is the real deal. Like, this dev is serious. This is a true, like, from scratch implementation. The dev is serious about it. It's not a fork. I'm very impressed with this coin. I need your opinion. And he took a look at it. We were both very impressed, and we started on the implementation. And as a matter of fact, like, we wanted to bring everyone in that we possibly could. Miles wrote the spec for the Stratum protocol for Zealous so that we could bring in big miners like SRB Miner and Rigel. And that was the right call. We got K1 Pool there, we got Hero Miners there, Vipers there. This coin has legs. The dev is very serious. In the time since it's launched, GPUs have taken over. And there's a hard fork coming up, a V2, and basically the dev is very serious about keeping FPGAs out and for bringing CPUs and GPUs somewhat at the same level. So we have a hard fork coming out for that. And it's impressive. I am amazed at how devoted the dev is to his vision. He's, there is a dev fee involved with this coin, but he's devoted to it. He is earning his keep, and I'm very proud to be associated with it.
That's awesome, man. I have some pretty high hopes for it too. Anything that gets involved with BlockDAG seems to be very intriguing, and I think the right course to go. But I'm curious, how hard is it to try and balance the hash rates between CPUs and GPUs? It seems like a lot of coins have attempted that in the past, but that's a hard task to complete.
It is a very hard task, and especially when you have such brilliant programmers, like you have 1.0 Miner and you got Rigel. Those guys took it to a whole new level. It's unbelievable. When we were first getting started, you would have these guys. All of a sudden, it's 20% increase in hash, 40% increase in hash, and it's just unbelievable how smart these guys are. And it just left the CPUs behind. That being said, this developer knows what he's doing. There are certain knobs he has to turn, in as in regards to, like, you know in the algorithm to make it so that CPUs can actually compete. And I think there is a very good chance he's actually going to accomplish the goal of having a balanced network of GPUs and CPUs.
That's something that we've needed for a long time. I really like the way that Warthog has done a great job of creating something that requires both. And it kind of goes back to the ethos of when Bitcoin started, one CPU, one vote. And, anytime you come out with something that's CPU only or GPU only, it seems like it's only a matter of time, depending on the algorithm, before somebody, like you said, a very intelligent developer figures out a way to get around that. And I would really like to see a balance between the two.
Well, the funny thing is right now, no one has a place to park. CPUs do not have a place to park right now. GPUs do not really have a place to park right now that is financially viable. So everyone's looking for any place they can park their rigs.
And I'm glad you said that, because that kind of leads me to some other topics that I didn't really have on my list. But we had a discussion, I don't know, what was it, maybe about 2 months ago, where we were talking about CPU mining versus GPU mining, and I think you were starting to acquire a lot more CPUs at that point. And Rabbits had this vision that CPU mining is the way of the future. GPUs have been decimated because of the ETH merge, and I really kind of stuck up for GPUs and was like, look at all the coins that are coming out for GPUs, and you don't have that many choices for CPUs. And CPU profitability was looking really good at the time, but I still wanted to acquire CPUs, not necessarily to CPU mine, but just more or less to start preparing for what I think is the future, which is either a combination of the two or processing compute jobs. And so,
Right, right. Yeah, I agree. I think that no, it's the only free lunch, right? Like, the fact that I have, however many CPU rigs, um, that's a backup plan. And the GPUs are a backup plan, uh, because you don't know what's going to hit, because it's always changing. So it's better to, like, have a lot of different weapons in your arsenal than have one big gun. I know a couple of really hardcore miners. I'm lucky that the pool allows me to have contact with a lot of people, and I'm very lucky that I can have some frank conversations. And a lot of the guys that are heavy GPU miners are very envious of the meager, and I use the term meager, amount of CPUs that I have, because they're like, we're not exposed to that at all. And they're literally trying to get exposure to CPU mining because they've seen that there is a potential for it.
yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I think it's going to continue to go in that direction. But like you said, it's ever changing, right? Like, all of us are hyper aware that AI is coming to the forefront, and we're all trying to prepare for it. And I actually started having these conversations like a year ago. I started reaching out to you and to other people, like trying to understand, okay, 1x, 16x, how many PCI lanes do I need? Which CPUs can handle 4 GPUs and still process all of that information at 4x or 16x, whatever the case may be. And now I wish I would have jumped into that a little bit sooner and started acquiring some more equipment. But like you said, things change so quickly. You don't want to get overextended towards anything. But if, for the viewers that are listening right now, diversity is good in this situation, because you don't know what is going to come down the pipeline. And it could be AI compute. It could be a coin that requires CPU and GPU power together. It could be a coin like Zealous that you can mine both on. Um, but when it comes to ASICs, I've always had this stigma, not necessarily specifically because of the centralization that occurs, but also because of the shelf life that they have. And I put out a tweet not too long ago, just kind of saying it perplexes me that somebody would go spend $4,000 or $5,000 on a BTC miner to make 50 cents a day when you can still get that same kind of profit out of a $200 CPU.
I'll tell you what, the people that bought the initial cast miners, oof, those guys are taking a bath right now. Oh my God. I mean, I hope they made their money, but damn, they're taking a bath right now.
Yeah, I see a lot of it for sale in my. Uh, I have a channel in Discord where you can offer to sell things. And by the way, if anybody's listening to that and wants to get into the Discord, you're welcome to be there. But just keep in mind, I don't recommend anybody purchase anything unless they're using PayPal goods and services. I don't like any other service other than that because it's saved my butt several times. So if you come in there trying to sell things, just be aware that you might get kicked out of there if if you're trying to use some other service other than something that's on the up and up. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people that are trying to get rid of their Casper miners. And if you got them early enough, surely you've made your initial investment back. And we go back to that same conversation: is it better to spend the money on the coin, or is it better to buy the miner? And this is a weird conversation for miners to have because obviously we're biased, right? We're gonna lean towards saying buy the miner as opposed to buying the coin. But there was a recent interview with Tactical Investing where I don't know if you saw that, but he interviewed somebody who's a multimillionaire from mining Caspa. He
Oh,
he
wow.
he started out with GPUs. He had like a $200,000 to $400,000 investment in a GPU mining farm, and he was fortunate enough to mine Caspa as soon as he became aware of it. Probably about the same time as us, right? Sometime around August of 2022 or something. And then he used all of that Caspa when the price pumped to buy the ASICs when they came out. And so he's done really well. But the big question is, if you spent millions of dollars on Caspa ASICs, what would you have as far as fiat value is concerned if you would have put all of that money into buying more Caspa? And
I mean, think about that for a second. This guy has invested a tremendous amount of capital on GPUs alone, and then he doubled down on ASICs. Like, that's unbelievable. Like that. I mean, I don't. That takes a lot of balls, man. That's amazing. Wow.
absolutely, and it's paid off for him. But there's a lot of people that have done that with coins that just weren't the right coin to do it with. And I think Caspa, it does come closer to solving the trilemma than any other coin does. It's managed to get where it's at without any top tier exchanges, especially exchanges in the U.S. But
Right.
at this point, it's still a gamble to go out there and buy a Caspa ASIC because of the fast emission schedule, right? We're at like 83% now. We'll be at
Yeah, I wouldn't buy
94% in a
one.
year.
I wouldn't buy one at all. No, I would not buy an ASIC miner for Caspa. I don't care what the price is. I would buy the coin. There's no way I would buy that. There's no absolutely no argument that can be given to me to buy that with 83% already emitted. There's no way.
So, what do you think of uh, the miner extracted value and fees keeping the miners afloat after most of the coins are in emission? Do you think that's possible? Do you think Caspa could die because they didn't have that type of foresight? They are claiming that they've got it all figured out. They've done all of this intentionally and everything's going to work out just fine. But of course, you see someone like Son of a Tech who questions it, and then Shy on Twitter is he has
Look,
some stuff to say about it as well.
I hope that happens. I absolutely hope it happens. But what if it doesn't?
Right. It's a big gamble, right? And I'm
It's
in
a
the same boat as
huge
you.
gamble.
It's not a safe enough bet in my opinion. Now, the one saving grace for those of you who have purchased Caspa miners is I think that Caspa's protocol and consensus mechanism could be replicated over and over and over again, just like Ethereum. How many different chains do we have now that use ETH hash? And it runs a lot cooler, uses less power, So that does make a lot of sense, and maybe there are some copycats that come out in the future that can sustain those ASICs, but it may be like another merge. All of those just may have to find another home, and it may not be profitable. They may be shutting off. It's something to consider.
That's very interesting because right now, with the price of power and the situation, my biggest money makers, as crazy as this sounds, are my E9 Pro on Okta.
Hmm.
Isn't that crazy?
It's pretty wild. And if you look at charts, you won't find many charts that look as good as Caspa's, except Okta's. And I don't know, that I really like Okta and everything that they're doing, but the way that chart has continued to go up and to the right has been outstanding. And I only have one ASIC in my farm right now. That is the Jazzminer X16Q. I've actually
Yep,
considered buying some more, but
yep.
I'm kind of holding out because I don't know what's coming to Mining Disrupt. I don't know. Shortly after there, we could have some announcements. We may get some Ethash miners that are much more efficient. Here's one question I have for you. So Jazzminer announced the what was it X44Q, but we're hearing that it's not coming out till next year. So how did they have numbers for it without a working product? And if let's put my tinfoil hat on here for a second, do they have that technology right now that they're using, and they're not going to give that to us until we get to the peak of the bull run, and then dump those on everybody when we go back into the bear run?
Well, you can extrapolate, for ASIC mining, like you can do simulations on an ASIC and then scale it based upon what the hardware will actually do per clock cycle. Like that's very easy. Like even back in the day when I worked at Scientific Atlanta, we could predict what type of bandwidth we were able to handle on our decoders based upon simulations that were run. So they can predict that based upon the die shrink and the number of cycles they can execute per clock cycle. That being said, look, I've got two X16Qs. I've got an E9 Pro. They are parked on Okta. Um, I think Okta is great. We've been a supporter of it for well over a year now. I have high hopes for Okta. I have high hopes for Chlor. These are cryptocurrencies that actually do something.
Yep.
They actually do something. They're not just sitting there with empty transactions. And when you look at the transactions that go across the Explorer, like they actually have transactions in them.
For sure. When Chlor first came out, I was pretty negative, to be honest with you, because the GPU marketplace wasn't really all that functional. But the other thing is it's Kapow, and Kapow is really hard for me to run on cards that need pad replacements. And
Yep,
I'm
yep,
busy.
100%.
I don't have time to constantly change pads and babysit them, and I also don't want a super high electric bill. But at the same time, man, I absolutely love everything that Chlor has done so far. And when it comes to choosing an algorithm that is ASIC resistant, you really can't get much better than that.
I tell you what, they're not even sitting on their laurels. Like they've released new Hive OS Docker containers that allow for overclocking now. They are on the ball. They know who their market is. They are executing. I'm very impressed with Chlor.
So one thing that does concern me when it comes to GPU rentals, AI compute, all this stuff is a comment that somebody left on an X post. I don't remember who said it. So when it comes to large entities using our resources and being able to sell our compute power, it really doesn't seem like they're ever going to utilize our resources for a variety of reasons. And that kind of worries me a little bit because you've got the specialized hardware coming out from Nvidia They're selling to data centers. There are data centers just gobbling it up. There are data centers that are waiting in line for years to come and paying exorbitant amount of money for this specialized hardware. And we really don't have anybody other than Flux that's out there trying to gather this business together in a B2B type form. What's your thoughts on that?
Expand upon that for me. Tell me, explain to me explain to me what you're looking for, because I get the Flux reference, and frankly, Flux is probably my biggest personal holding because I very much believe in Flux. I believe in their vision. It's a crypto that does something. But expand upon what you're talking about. Help
So
me out here.
so as let's say for example, I own a multi-million dollar company and I need AI compute resources.
Hmm.
I for one, I've got to be able to get into contact with the right channels to make that happen. I also have to be able to do business in such a way that I don't raise eyebrows from authorities. And I also want to have that guarantee that there's nothing malicious going on. And if there is something malicious that's going on, let's take for example, you've got some intellectual property that you don't want getting out there. You want to be able to hold somebody responsible. You want an entity to take to court if that ever comes to the case. And doing business with decentralized organizations really presents a lot of challenges with those things.
I 100% agree with you, because right now, if your rig gets rented out by Chlor, you can, as the person that's being rented out, go on to your rig and see exactly what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I 100% agree with you that nothing is private. There's no doubt. Everything you said is 100% accurate.
So I think something that's been talked about here a lot recently, and we'll get into it about Son of a Tech's comments about Salad. But Salad is doing this on Windows. They're creating a container,
Mm-hmm.
and there really isn't any way for the hardware owner to spy on what's going on, unless I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong.
To be honest, I've never run Salad. I've followed what's going on. I've followed the tech. I mean, they are running Docker containers in Windows, but they're Windows Docker containers. You can use the Docker commands to see the output of those Docker containers. Uh, my understanding, and this may not be accurate, but my understanding is some of those work jobs can be transcriptions for adult entertainment, among other things. Uh, I look, you're renting your rig out. If you have a moral objection to this, then don't rent your rig out. I personally, I'm off right now. I'm not mining right now. Nothing is on. I'm literally off for the first time in 3 years. Um, but understand that if you're renting your hardware out, like I would never rent out VPN services. Never, 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 never do that. Please, if you take nothing from this conversation, never rent out your VPN. Like, do not do that, my friends. That is the absolute worst thing that you could ever fucking do. Uh, but yeah, I mean, if you're fine with adult content being rendered on your GPUs, which I'm like, it's fine. If you choose to do that, then I believe that's what Salad is doing.
Okay. Do you think that it's possible that a decentralized organization can figure out a way to prevent the hardware, the person that's hosting the hardware from obtaining any of that intellectual property or compromising what's being done and leaking that information?
With the current technology that I know of, no. I think that you would have to have encrypted logs, or at least have a Docker container that would not release any logs and would be encrypted. I mean, can it be done? Absolutely. Is it financially viable to do that? I don't know. It depends on how, you know, important your workload is. Can you turn off all your logs and not print out what your stuff's doing? Absolutely. So if an organization wanted to, they could make it happen.
So while we're on the salad topic, I did want to play some of that the tweet that Son of a Tech put out about the warning about salad, and I think this really stepped on some of the YouTubers' toes. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this, so let me know if you can't hear it. Here we go.
Everybody has been talking about Salad lately. It is not a cryptocurrency. It is basically a platform to rent out your hardware from your home to receive some sort of payment or compensation in return. And unfortunately, a lot of the crypto YouTubers have jumped on board, and that is because essentially they are offering a lot of campaign and ad dollars to these particular influencers. So you need to be aware of this. I know it because here I have emails going over that to basically try to get me to sell it to you. I'm not going to. I don't think that it is ethical, and I wanted you guys to be aware that this is what's going on.
Okay, so he's basically saying that they sent him some type of email in regards to promoting salad, and I think that he's assumed that everybody who's made content on it so far is in on the take. But after some of the reactions from some of the other YouTubers, it seems like he may be one of the only people that got that invitation. He's kind of doubling down on it being a scam, or there's something elusive going on with paying in gift cards, and he seems totally against it. Now, when it comes to salad, I don't really have any strong opinions about salad itself, but when it comes to him calling out the other YouTubers, I think that he may have jumped the gun without doing a little bit of research to, or maybe ask some other people like, hey, did you get compensated for this? And if you didn't get compensated, or if you did get compensated, then maybe that's something that you should be letting your audience know. But it doesn't appear as though anybody's been receiving any compensation for that.
Yeah, I've looked at Twitter. I've been following some of the drama, and I don't know of anyone that's been making anything other than referral fees. Uh, and even then, don't quote me on this. I haven't done my due diligence, but anyone who's doing a referral fee, I think that they have a referral, link, and they say, "Hey, this is a referral link." And at the end of the day, let's be honest now. People want to make money. They want to use their hardware, which is not making anything right now. Like if you got a 3090 or 4090, and you can have the potential to make $5 a day, like I get why people would want to do that. I don't blame people. Like, look, if you want to make $5 a day with your hardware that you've spent $1,500 on, okay, I'm not going to pass judgment on you. I mean, granted, I don't pass judgment on anyone, but that's cool. Like, I get it. The YouTubers that are presenting this information, and it has been a deluge, like literally in the past 2 weeks, something that has been available for the past 2-3 years has really like hit hard, and frankly, like the technicals, that guy, he was on it first. He was the first one. And I remember watching that video. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm not loading Windows on any of my rigs. I'm not going to do it, right? Like, I'm not going to do that. But hey, kudos to you for bringing that to light and bringing my attention to it so I know that it's out there. And I think that's what the YouTube community brings, is it brings maybe a different perspective. So it's great. Like, make no mistake about it. At times, he is on it like white on rice. Other times, maybe, in this situation, perhaps he jumped the gun. I don't know. Uh, that being said, I don't mind having someone remind me to check myself, because sometimes we get caught up in the FOMO. So if someone's out there saying, "Hey, check yourself," I appreciate it.
Yeah, one thing that SOAT stands for that I personally identify with is I just don't do sponsorships. And, when I first started this channel, the allure was there. It was like, man, look at all these other YouTubers. They're making money, they're getting free miners, and I could do this and I could get rich off of doing this. But when I really got into it, like there's only one product that I took on a sponsorship, and that was Hive Mapper. And they were just, like, hey, we'll send you one if you want to do a review on it. You can say whatever you want to say. We don't care. Just, tell us what you think. And I was like, sure. And that was actually very lucrative. But I haven't really made any content on Hive Mapper. And the content that I did make was very honest about some of the issues that I saw. I was kind of like a beta tester. But
I remember.
that whole thing just kind of really turned me off from ever doing any type of sponsorship deals. Now I'm sure that there are people that are listening to this video right now that would consider doing a sponsorship as my channel grows. But I'll just tell you flat out right now, I'm not going to do sponsorships. And Son of a Tech is pretty much the same way. The ones that he does, he's upfront, he's honest about it. There's other YouTubers that are, they still do sponsorships, but they still give honest reviews. But I don't like there to be that gray area there. I don't like my financial incentives to be at odds with the people that are watching these videos. And Son of a Tech is very blunt and honest about that. And I think we need more of that in the space, because there is so much content that's created that's all about their own personal financial incentives.
I'm going to double down on what you just said, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this. But there are a lot of guys out there, a lot of YouTubers that have based their income, their lifestyle, their family's home income on their YouTube channel. It makes it very, very difficult to be independent. Straight up, Miles and myself, our main bread and butter comes from our 9 to 5. Viper.net does not pay our bills. So we have no problem in being honest and, throwing someone under the bus if we want to. We don't care. We do it because it's a passion, because we enjoy it, because it's fun to us. And a lot of guys have lost that flexibility. A lot of YouTubers have lost that flexibility because they have based a lot of their income. I'm not saying they're on the take. I'm saying it gives them pause. They can't stand up for their morals because they have to worry about how something's going to come off or not.
Mm-hmm. And there's in my opinion, it's okay to do it the way that myself or Son of a Tech does it. It's also okay, and I won't use any specific examples, but the audience knows, what we're describing here. And it's okay to have that as a business model. There is nothing wrong with that. It's just the viewers who are new to the space and don't understand what's happening as they're viewing can really put themselves in a bind financially, thinking that they're making educated decisions off of something that they watched on YouTube. And that's why I stick to just focusing on what's in their best interest. Like my farm is probably like 40 GPUs. I got one ASIC. I got a variety of other, smaller equipment, but I've stuck to that even though I've had that desire that's been kind of instilled with me from watching all of the other channels to just continue to get myself into more and more equipment and continue to grow. But you have got to put the brakes on sometimes and realize you do not want to get yourself overextended. Just do what's within your means, do plenty of research, follow as many channels as you possibly can to get a variety of opinions, because if you're only watching one or two of us out there, you can very easily get led astray.
Let me be very clear about this. I think that the YouTubers for cryptocurrency are all good people. I legitimately, and I've had disagreements. I have. I've had disagreements with a lot of them. And the thing is, I think they're all good people. I think they all have families that they want to take care of. I think they want crypto to be successful. You know what? The thing is that sometimes they get caught in a corner and now they're stuck. So they have to like, do I have to stick my neck out for this, or do I have to just stay quiet in something else, or I'm just going to bury my head in the sand? And you know what? It's absolutely okay. Like, I get it. You don't have to be the person that sticks your neck out all the time.
For sure.
But at the same time, like, respect the people that do it. Respect the people that are sticking their necks out, that are, bringing attention to the problems that are in the space, because there are a lot of them. There's a lot of people that lie, cheat, and steal in the crypto space. It doesn't matter if it's pools. It doesn't matter if it's miners. It doesn't matter if it's, content creators. There are bad actors. It's a human condition.
Yep. And good people do bad things. Bad people do good things. Things change too. So I don't want to pigeonhole anybody into a role. And it's like you said, pretty much everybody that I know in this space, they're all good people. And I just think it's important for the audience to understand that there are incentives involved, and you have to understand the content that you consume, and you have to step back before you make any financial decisions and really kind of analyze those things. So I
Yeah,
I don't want to go
you're
too
going to
far
have to
down
be
the
an
weeds
adult.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, you're going to have to be an adult. Like, you know what? When something doesn't work out your way, it's okay. Like, you had to measure that risk with the reward. Trust me, many coins that I've spent a lot of electricity on to mine have come up zeros. And that's okay. That's part of the game.
yep. Speaking of, last subject that I wanted to get into, and that is Bitcoin mining and the struggle that miners are currently going through and will probably continue to go through, most likely for at least the rest of the summer. I think we're getting to a point now where ordinals have kind of died down. The price of Bitcoin is coming down. We're seeing a lot of the OG whales, Bitcoin miners, that are starting to sell some of their coins, whether that's to recapitalize to purchase some of the new hardware that's coming out, or they simply just made some bad financial decisions and they're going to go under. I think we're going to see sometime here in the next couple of months a lot of capitulation. And I'm curious, what's your thoughts on not only that, but what happens to the price of Bitcoin in the short term, the medium term, and the long term?
Okay, so we both know, based upon history, that the FOMO for Bitcoin is going to kick in around October of 2025. Is that, am I in sync with you on that?
Yes.
Okay. So right now, I've got a couple of S19J Pros running in, super duper low power mode, 75 terahertz, 75, whatever gigahertz, or whatever it is, mega hash, gigahash,
Terahash.
terahash. Yeah, there you go. Terahash. And it's making 50 cents a day. And in the middle of summer in Georgia, I turned it off. I'm not going to run that. I don't care what my power price is. I'm not going to run that. Am I going to run it later? Absolutely. But right now is not the time to run your home priced power on a Bitcoin miner. The math doesn't make sense. Why am I going to make 50 cents a day? It doesn't work. The math doesn't work. Do I think Bitcoin's going to go up? Percent. Do I think this cycle is going to be shorter? Yes, I do. I think when the price hits $150,000, I'm going to start liquidating my holdings. Do I think it'll get to 180? Probably, but I need that exit liquidity. So I'm willing to miss some so that I have liquidity to get out.
So in this, we'll say medium term, sometime between now and end of August, early September, I'm already seeing that the hash rate's coming down. I think shortly after the ordinals and the halving, have their little run, you're starting to see hash rate fall off a little bit. And when it comes to price capitulation, miners selling, somebody asked me in a live stream, I think it was Blockchain Basement, they wanted to know, what the Bitcoin miners are going to do. Are they going to sell off? And at that time, miners had actually been selling quite a bit, and it seemed like there was some selling exhaustion that had gone on, and they'd kind of depleted their gains. But now that ordinals have died down, it seems like I don't want to use the word suppression, but you're hearing stories like, oh, BlackRock is shorting Bitcoin, and then you've got Germany right now is selling like $600 billion worth of Bitcoin on the exchanges instead of using the OTC. And it does seem like we don't want Bitcoin to run right now. And I could see that being a strategy that makes a lot of sense because when we started overheating back in, we'll say right around the time of the halving, altcoins were running, and it seemed like if things don't cool off, we could have a blow off top now, and then it would take an extremely long time to recover. And then that just kind of messes with the whole 4 year cycles. But now that we're kind of pulling back a little bit, it's all kind of lining up with previous cycles. But what's really worrying me is the whole macroeconomic situation. And I don't want to go too far down into the weeds to this, but there's a lot of people that are probably viewing this that they pay attention to the mining scene, they pay attention to crypto, but they're not really into the whole macroeconomic situation and politics and stuff like that. And I wish that I didn't follow it so closely, but I feel like it's necessary in order to kind of gain an edge. And things do not look good. They do not look good
No,
at all.
no. We're like things are being held together right now with paper clips and duct tape for the election. And then after the election, we're going to hit a downfall. That being said, I bought $5,000 more worth of Bitcoin yesterday,
Nice. Yeah,
and I have no problem holding it.
I think that it seems like the market can remain solvent way more than you can be rational. And there's been times where I'm like, okay, something is definitely about to happen. And that thing that I expect to happen does happen, but my timing is way off. We could run into the summer of 2025 and then just go into a terrible, terrible bear market recession. Or, maybe after the election, everybody, has a ton of optimism and we start to fix the problems and we really turn a corner. But it feels like this current administration is prepared to leave a big mess for the next administration and really doesn't have any plans on fixing anything before that time frame.
Oh yeah, but if you look back at previous election cycles, it's all about holding things together until the election. Every single, transition, it's always been like that. We're going to hold things together. We're going to goose it a little bit before we get into the election season, and then afterwards, there's a deflation. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen this cycle. So be prepared for it. I mean, I am. I'm holding back. I'm saving. That being said, anytime Bitcoin is under 63,000, I'm buying.
So, what can listeners do to kind of prepare for that? And I'll go first, and I'll just say that I don't have anything staked. I have access to all my wallets. I've basically pulled everything off of exchanges, and I'm prepared to act if I need to immediately. But what's some advice you would give to somebody in preparation for, you know, making making those sales if they need to?
One, don't overextend yourself. You're probably right on crypto, but your timing is not going to be right. So it's okay to hold back. I would have at least 4 months of liquidity uh, for your home and your family. Like, be able to live without a job for 4 months, at least. That is number one, because when you want to sell that crypto for liquidity, it's going to be the wrong time, guaranteed. So, number one, have a backup plan, have liquidity for 4 months. Maybe a lot of people won't have that. That's my advice. Like, be able to live without a paycheck for 4 months. Um, and once you have that, you got some breathing room, you got some runway. Um, as far as mining goes, you can do things there. Even today, there's the ability to be profitable in mining. For instance, there are almost always some sort of ghostwriter fork coming out that you can do rentals on with your hardware to make some type of income. So, is it going to be great? No. Is it going to be better than mining on what you could find on hashrate.no? Yes. So if you get into trouble and you're unemployed, your number one job is to find a job. The word for the day is job, J-O-B. But after you've sent out all your resumes and you're doing all you can, follow the market, follow what's going on in the alt channels on Bitcoin Talk, and rent your hardware out.
Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time out of your Friday. I know that you've got things going on. I can hear some of these things going on in the background. I hope that you're having fun. I hope that you enjoy your weekend. And for the viewers that are listening right now, if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to be involved with Viper, what's some of the best ways to follow along and get in touch?
So, my handle is Iotapi 322 on Twitter, and obviously we have our own Discord. We answer every single message that comes into our Discord. You are always welcome, good or bad suggestions, good or bad. We'd love to hear them. If you need help setting something up, we are here for you. We were beginner miners just like everyone else, and we want to help you succeed, because the more we bring crypto to the masses, the better chance there is for adoption.
All right, if you made it to the end of the episode, congratulations. Appreciate you sticking around to the end. You get another little teaser here, and remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on your way out. And face reveal coming at 7,000 subs, and I'll see you then.